This show is brought to you in part by viewers like you who joined a Patreon or become YouTube members. Thank you. And if you could, hit the like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
So I have a video coming out later today that's going to be a clip from a live stream, of day one, talking about what I think the Browns are going to do at 33. But I wanted to record this video for the morning portion because I really want to sit on what the Browns did. And I'm recording this at like 2 a.m. right now. So I've had a lot of time to sit on what the Browns did at 2. And it's important to note, man, the trade back, they gave us no time to prepare for a trade back. The Browns just didn't give us any time, right? We went from, okay, it's going to be Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter to all of a sudden, out the blue, the Jaguars called. They offered you what they felt like was a Godfather deal, and we're trading back from 5. It was a whirlwind. It came out of nowhere. And I don't know why it came out of nowhere. Maybe it was that Jacksonville wasn't really thinking about moving up until earlier today. Who knows what caused it, but it seemed to happen very fast. And I think that whiplash Browns fans had, right? Because basically we all woke up in the morning on Thursday thinking that today would be one of the least complicated, most simple, and dare I say boring draft days the Cleveland Browns have ever had, which is they're going to walk to that podium and take Travis Hunter. Every national person, every local person, up until about 5 p.m. Eastern time today, was convinced that that was going to happen. And everybody, including myself, was convinced that was going to happen. I was so convinced, I started working on the Travis Hunter Welcome to Cleveland video. Like, it seemed like a lock at that point. And maybe that's when I should have started to question it, because there's never a such thing as a lock in Cleveland, but we'll discuss that another day. So we went from there to 3 hours later, they traded the pick. I don't think it's just that the Browns traded the pick. I don't think that it's just, shout out to my cat. She's just like chilling there like Batman on one of those screens. She's literally a gargoyle. Y'all say hi to her in the comment section. But I don't think it's just that the Browns traded the pick. I don't think it's just that the Browns took Mason Graham, which I think is a really good pick. I think it's how everything happened. And maybe they couldn't help it. Maybe the Browns were definitely going to take Travis Hunter, and then they were blown away by the trade offer from the Jacksonville Jaguars. It is a significant trade offer, right? If you take this out the context of people who have been wrapped up in the Browns draft process, and you listen to people from outside the Browns media sphere talk about what the Jaguars offered to move up 3 spots, they understand how significant that draft package is. A future first and a second-round pick this year. Not just a second-round pick, a top 40 second-round pick this year. So, equivalent grade to a late first. Like, to get Travis Hunter, they traded the value of what could potentially be 2 first-round picks. It's significant. A significant package to move back and still get one of the top players in this draft. Now, was Mason Graham up there on the same tier as Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter? No. But is he a player that I don't think is going to be very good? Hell, I think he's going to be great. I think Mason Graham's going to be a really good player. I think positional value kind of took him a tier down more than anything when it comes to them, because he plays defensive tackle. Same thing with like an Ashton Genty, who I thought was also a top 3 player in this draft. But positional value brought him down, right? So, make no mistake, I love Mason Graham as a player, and I think Mason Graham's going to do good things here. We can talk about that in the future. But they trade back, and it's just shocking. Like, it came out of nowhere. We had no time to prepare for this. Some of us feel betrayed. Some of us already went out, got Travis Hunter jerseys made, all kind of stuff, right, was going down. We were preparing, like, again, we woke up today thinking today would basically be the coronation of Travis Hunter. And what we got was something different. And in situations like that, emotions are going to run high, right? When you get that emotional whiplash, emotions are going to run high. You're going to be more angry or more upset, or depending on if you like the whiplash, right? You might be more happy than you need to be. But your emotions are going to be out of whack in a situation like that. And like, I ain't going to lie, it got me because, boy, I was convinced they were going to take Travis Hunter. No doubt in my mind before the trade rumors started. That even after the trade rumors started, I still was like, nah, this smoke. They're going to take Travis. So that whiplash did a number on me because I was not able to focus for the rest of the night. I was really not able to focus for the rest of the night. I don't think that's a unique experience for any Browns fans that are watching this video. But as I get further and further away from it, the more I understand what went down. And look, I don't think I'm a fan of it. I'm a fan of taking Travis Hunter. I'm a fan of taking Abdul Carter. I can't say that this is something that I wanted the Browns to do, or even in hindsight, I would have endorsed the Browns doing. But I can't sit here and act like this was such an objectively bad decision that all I can think about is ways to shit on this decision. Like, it's not an objectively bad decision. There's a lot of GMs, some of your favorite GMs, Howie Roseman, a bunch of other guys. Les Snead, homeboy out there in Tampa Bay who probably would have done the same thing. Because what you were offered was a pretty insane package when you really think about it. 36 and a first next year from Jacksonville, a team that's already in the top 10, to move back 3 spots for a non-quarterback. It's not crazy to think that other teams would have accepted that trade back. The problem that you have is the question of bird in hand versus potential. You know where I sit on this. I would have just rather took Travis. And maybe I might have been wrong for that. But I can't sit here just because I disagree with what the Browns did, act like there was no logic behind it, like this was a brain dead decision and just shit on it. I'm not going to jump and cheerlead and bandwagon this decision. I don't know if it's going to work out. It's going to take a lot of work to make this work out. Travis Hunter might be one hell of a player, dog. It might be that you can hit on whatever you get in the first round next year, Mason Graham, and at what you get at 36, and it still might be something you think about. That's how good Travis could be. That's the risk you take. Maybe this ends up being an even deal. Maybe this ends up being something we debate for a very long time. Maybe this ends up being a no-brainer win for Cleveland in the long run. But I'm not about to sit here and act like the one outcome that would validate my anger because the Browns didn't do what I wanted them to do is the only outcome that's possible. Because it's not. It's not even close to true. I also want to, because I feel like the true victim in all this whiplash that the Browns fans have been dealing with is Mason Graham. I think there's a world where the Browns take Mason Graham at 5 and they start with the 5th pick, and Browns fans wholly embrace this dude. But unfortunately, because of how he got here, his introduction to Cleveland kind of got stepped on. But he's a really, really good player. And he makes a ton of sense for Cleveland. Mason Graham is one of the best players in this draft. If I had to rank my top players in this draft, it's Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter tied at 1, And then you have Ashton Genty at 2, and I have Mason Graham at 3. Right? Like, Mason Graham is one of the best players in this draft class. I think some people tend to underestimate him because he doesn't look like the traditional dominant 3-tech, right? He doesn't look like visually DJ Reader. He doesn't look like visually Jeffrey Simmons. But his tape and his dominance on the field versus elite competition at Michigan does look like those guys. This is a really good football player. You watch this guy play against the best competition. Played against Alabama his sophomore year, dominated Alabama. Played against Washington in the national championship game, dominated Washington. Every time he played Ohio State, very talented football team, dominated Ohio State. You know, plays USC, dominates USC. This is a big-time player who made big-time plays in big-time moments in big-time games. The bigger the game, the bigger the performance from Mason Graham. Yeah, he's a defensive tackle, but don't just write him off. 3-techs are super important in the Jim Schwartz scheme. Every Jim Schwartz scheme that has been successful has had dominant 3-techs as a huge part of it. You look at what Philadelphia was able to do to win a championship under Jim Schwartz, dominant 3-tech. You look at the best years that Jim Schwartz had as a head coach in Detroit, Ndamukong Suh, Nick Fairley, dominant 3-techs. This wide 9 scheme thrives off dominant 3-techs. And the Browns now have 2 3-techs on the inside, 2 young 3-techs on the inside. They feel really, really good about. And Mason Graham and Mike Hall. One of the things I have been complaining about with this team for the longest is their lack of commitment long-term to the defensive tackle position. I have complained about this team not investing in the position, putting in duct tape solutions, and that affecting their consistency and continuity year over year, and that being a huge part of why I think the Browns struggle to patch together back-to-back successful years on the defensive line. Well, I can't say they haven't invested on the defensive interior anymore. They spent a 2nd-round pick on Mike Hall, who looked really good before he got injured last year. And they spent the 5th overall pick on Mason Graham. I might not love how you got here, but I can't sit here, ask for this team to draft 3-techs and take the position seriously, and then wag my finger and say, not this way when you do it. Okay, I understand that. Like, I want this team to get 3-techs. You know, it's been something I've been complaining about. You got the 3-techs. I can't really be upset at that. You know, the more I look at myself in the mirror, the more I think it would be hypocritical for me to act like, you know, drafting a 3-tech here in the top 5 that I think could be a dominant piece to your rotation for potentially 10 years is a bad thing, right? Because if Mason Graham becomes anything like Cam Hayward or that kind of stalwart for the Browns defensive line, hell yes, that's worth the top 5 pick. So that's who Mason Graham is. That's what Mason Graham could be. He's a really good player. And I think lost in all the shock is the true evaluation of Mason Graham and the plan behind this. Their plan is, we want to win in the trenches. We want to win on the defensive line. And we want to be young and have a lot of continuity on that defensive line. Well, right now they have a lot of youth on the defensive line and a lot of continuity now. Right? Mason Graham, you're not going to have to sign a defensive tackle patchwork next year, right? Mike Hall, you're not going to, like, these are guys that you have locked under contract and the ability to lock under contract for a long-term period. So I see the vision. I understand it. I like the player in Mason Graham. Mason Graham's really good. Might not love how we got here. I might not love what we gave up to get here. And that's something I'm going to have to come to peace with myself, right? And we'll see if Travis makes that easier or if Abdul makes it easier, but I'm not going to lie. I don't love that the Cleveland Browns put me in a position to bet against Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter. I don't love that, right? Even though I understand why the Browns did what they did, I also understand that the haul they got was a pretty sizable haul. They didn't just move off of 2 for nothing. I can't really be mad at it. They got a lot, and what they got could turn into a lot. We're going to talk about that in the next video. I don't love how we got here. I don't love the position I'm in. I don't love that every time I see Abdul Carter get a sack or Travis Hunter score a touchdown or get an interception, I'm going to have to ask to myself, is this going to be worth it for the next 2 years? I don't love that. There have been successful versions of these kind of trades. We haven't really seen them in Cleveland, but they've been done before. Philadelphia has done it. Other teams have done it. There have been very unsuccessful versions of these trades. The Browns have done this before. I do think it's worth noting that this is a lot different than most of the trade backs the Cleveland Browns have done throughout their history. Most of the time, the Cleveland Browns trade back. They're trading back from like 3 to 22, right? This is not them moving back 20 spots in the draft to pick up 2 extra first-round picks. They move back 3 spots. So I'm not going to react to this like this is the Julio Jones trade, because we did not trade all the way back to like 25 to take Phil Taylor. Also, another point worth remembering is that at that point when the Browns made the trade with Atlanta was a perennial contender in the NFC, and they were picking routinely back of the first round. They were 27th pick or the 25th pick or something like that, the year that the Browns traded with them for Julio Jones. So not only is it not as steep of a trade back, it's also the hope that you get something valuable with that extra first in the trade back is much higher, because the Jacksonville Jaguars body of work over the last 5 years has not been a body of work that suggests that they're going to be super good this year. Now, it's not to say that they're guaranteed to be trash. They could put it together. Trevor Lawrence can play well, and they could put together a good season and make the playoffs. But this is also a team last year that lost to Deshaun Watson, like that version of Deshaun Watson. So clearly got a lot of things they need to address. So very different situation than the ones that we're automatically, because we're Browns fans and we've seen it before, are going to compare it to. It's different. It's a lot different. We didn't move back as far, and we didn't trade for a future first from an organization that is a perennial contender. We traded it to Jacksonville, right? And we're getting Jacksonville's pick, which you feel much better about than like if you traded this for Buffalo's pick or something like that. So there's some nuance here in that conversation when you compare it to those picks. But it's not the same situation. And look, I get it. It's going to be real easy to fall into pointing to the Julio Jones trade and saying this is going to be a disaster because of it. And that's usually how I feel about trade backs and what my instinct was after this trade was announced. But you got to really think about it. If it's not the same situation as the Atlanta one, and for a lot of reasons I've stated before, it's really not the same situation, then you can't really look at it this way. Yes, there are ways that this trade back cannot work out for the Cleveland Browns, but ignoring that there are plenty of ways that this trade back can work out greatly for the Cleveland Browns is a mistake. And I want to make this my last point before I end this video. This move right here, right, now that we know the Deshaun Watson trade was a ownership decision and not a football ops decision, or at least that's what they have chosen to go with publicly, that it's a a ownership decision that made that. This trade right here will define Andrew Berry's tenure as Cleveland Browns general manager. For a while, Andrew Berry's job as Cleveland Browns GM has been to maintain the talent that this team accumulated from 2017 to 2018 when they had an ungodly amount of first-round picks in, 3 years? From 2016 to 2018, I think they took like 5 first-round selections. And Andrew Berry's job for the first few years of his GM run in Cleveland was just to maintain that talent, develop them, put them in position to succeed, and then extend them when they do succeed. And he did a good job of that. But now Andrew Berry's job is to create this next crop of talent. This trade could be the spark that sets off a new era that makes us move on or helps us move on graciously from the Deshaun Watson era. It could be a trade that we look back on and go, wow, that changed everything. Like, what if we never make that trade? It could be that. It could also be a trade that we look back on and go, damn, another one slipped through our fingers. Add Travis Hunter, add Abdul Carter to the long list of players we wish the Browns would have just taken. How this plays out is going to define Andrew's run in Cleveland. If this works, Andrew Berry will be the GM for like the next 30 years. And the Browns will be on a new era. They will finally have moved on from the Watson thing. And, they get a quarterback, all this shit. Like, they're going to be great. And it's going to be awesome. If it doesn't work, then this is what we remember the Andrew Berry era as. It's on the line for him. I've said it all season. This offseason is the most important offseason, whether Andrew Berry knows it, of his career. He had to handle the Myles Garrett situation. Now this trade. This is going to be the fork in the road that defines him. And in part, Kevin Stefanski as well. Kevin's not immune to this. It's going to define Kevin and Andrew's whole run here in Cleveland. We'll see how this goes. I can see it going either way. Again, Mason Graham, really good player. I wouldn't be surprised if he's really good for the Browns for a really good time, for a really long time. But what do you do at 33? What do you do at 36? What do you do with that first next year? Those are tremendous tools in the tool shed for Andrew Berry. And what he builds out of that is going to determine everything. There are going to be a lot of people who do not have faith in Andrew Berry's ability to build out this tool shed. Like, belief in Andrew Berry is as low as it will ever be or has ever been. And deservedly so. Like, I can't blame people for being low on him right now. But how people feel about him right now, not really going to be the most important thing. How we feel about him in 2 years after we see the results of this trade, after we see how Travis's career plays out, Abdul's career play out, and Mason Graham's career play out, and the career of whoever they draft at 33 and 36, plus whatever happens with that first-round pick that they picked up. This is an interesting time. We will see what happens. A lot of time to judge this. But that's my thoughts. Y'all have a great day. I'll talk to you later for day 2 of the draft. It should be jam-packed. The Browns got like the 1st and 5th pick in that draft in the second round. So it should be jam-packed. We'll see what they do. But y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.